Welcome to DT Madness, Chronicles from the Third Life, episode 96, June 30th, 2024. So glad you could make it. Well, I didn't even really mean to, but it is episode 96, and I can't even say 96. Shout out to all my class of 1996 compadres. Greatest class to ever come through, which is why my Yahoo address is worldwide 96. I would say if you know, you know, but you do. And so, anyway, yes, on to the Lowe's deck repair saga. We had scoped it out. We had scoped it out a week before. I told you about jigsawing the deck to open up a hole for the hose, and all that's working out just fine. And how I learned about what Torx bits are, and you see we have this deck plank that curls up at the end, and it becomes a tripping hazard because it's right in the middle. And it had been there for quite a while. And I am a handyman. We all know that. But my experiences are latent, they're latent. And so I don't really get a chance to show my handyman prowess too often. Okay. So, but we had scoped it out. The day we bought the hose in from Amazon while standing in the aisle at Lowe's, Sydney and I had also gone over to check out the links of the deck boards to make sure that they had what we needed, and of course they did. I secured the required Torx bit. My mom found the box of those in Pop's old shop and brought those over, and so we're good to go. So I was able to get the problematic board removed, no problem. Put that star bit, that Torx bit on, unscrew them with my Black and Decker 20-volt um, drill that also connects, that battery also connects to my leaf blower, hedge trimmers. Yes, weed eater, love it. Okay, so the board's off. Now it's time to go to Lowe's. So off we go. And Sydney and I roll out in the truck, get to Lowe's. The first thing we need to do is find the board we need, and we did. We found the one that we needed, and we grab it up off the top. It's up about, I'm what, 5'9", 5'10", and I got to reach up pretty good and grab it down. But we're able to get it down. This thing's 14 feet long by 5 inches or whatever, and so but I get it down, and we walk on with it a little bit. I'm like, doesn't this one's got a few defects in it? It's a deck board, and so it's okay, but there's a few defects, and so we turn it around carefully, go back, put it down on the bottom. Sorry, Lowe's guy. And then reach up, grab the next one. The next one looks great, and then we walk on. And I'm carrying this thing through Lowe's, in the middle, 6 feet hanging off of one side, 6 feet hanging off the backside. Sydney's just making her running commentary as we go, and we get up to the checkout, roll to the checkout, waiting there, trying not to whiplash anybody. Carry it out to the Dodge Ram, Old Joe, as we've named the truck. Um, and this is where the real fun begins. First of all, it's as we get out there and put the plank on the truck bed. It's ludicrous. How do we say it? It's sheer ludicrosity. Is that a word? It's just ludicrosity how long this board is and how much of it hangs off the back of the truck. And it didn't matter, like tailgate up, tailgate down. It's gonna have to be tailgate down. Like there's no way to do it with the tailgate up. It just wasn't gonna It just wasn't going to happen. So I'd done my homework though. I'd done my homework and I looked up what was legal. And in North Carolina, 4 feet and below hanging off is all good. Anything over 4 feet, and you got to put a red flag on the end of it to alert the other drivers. And I had that in store because I looked in this little cabinet here back in the nook where we keep our 4 billion Christmas bags just in case we need them one day. And ripped off, but hey, I say that with a bit of sarcasm, and yet here I am using it and did need it one day. I ripped off a red ribbon handle, like the handles were ribbony, you know. So I ripped off one of those, grabbed a thumbtack out of my quote board back here behind me in the nook, and I'm ready to go. And so we're ready. But we're okay. So back to the back of the truck. I got carried away with my red ribbon. But we've got to strap it down. We got to strap this board down for sure. I mean, obviously. And I knew that going in, and I had these ratchet straps. I found these ratchet straps in the truck. They were brand new. They were still in the box, that my dad had just stored away in there with all of his locksmith materials and such as that. I opened them up. I got them out of the cardboard and tried them out before we left. I did all this at home, tried them out, ready to go, or was I? So we're here at Lowe's, and we're on the back of the truck in the parking lot with this board, the ludicrosity of the board hanging off the back, and I'm fumbling around with the first ratchet strap. Sydney's manning the back of the truck, or I could say womaning, I guess, but Sydney's not much on politically correct words, as most young people aren't, at least in this area. I think they're getting a little wary of being told what they shouldn't. Anyway, that's a different category, a different topic, I guess. But she's manning the back of the truck, making sure that we don't run into a bigger situation because this thing's hanging off into if people are trying to come through the aisle here, driving through. And she's definitely making her remarks, and as she should. There was a twisty tie, and it not like on bread, like these twisty ties with the wire in them, that hold toys together. Dads, moms out there who've had to take these toys off at Christmas time. You know what I'm talking about? I'm like, I don't know how they do it. They're not just, it's just a crazy pattern. How do you even untwist these things? But I had dealt with that before we left, or had I? Because there was a twisty tie that I had cut, but I didn't realize that there was still another little piece down there. And now it's so short that I can't really get after it with my fingers. I can't get it to manipulate it to uncork, okay, to unscrew, untwisty. And so now it's like the stress of the situation, the heat, I mean, it's hot. It's hot. It's whatever o'clock it is, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We're on the back of the truck. I'm in there with my Birkenstocks and my orange toenails and my tank top, and I'm sitting on the back of this truck, you know, with the board hanging way off. So I realize how ridiculous it all is. So the stress of the situation, the heat, like I said, the ludicrosity, it's all starting to speed things up. But I get my key out, and kind of leverage the twisty tie as hard as I can, and it pops off. So awesome. Now I'm ready. But now I can't get the stupid ratchet strap to work. And this is where the emoji SMH comes into play. So yes, you should be shaking your heads at my ineptitude at this point. After a few minutes of trying and verbal protestations to Sydney that I really did try this out before we left, I finally went into Lowe's, leaving her to man the plank, and asked the guy, what do I do? How do I make this ratchet strap work? And he showed me, like, oh, you just click this little trigger, this little two-finger trigger. And I was like, oh, and thank you. And then I shuffled back out quickly as I could. But now we're cooking, right? Now we're cooking, or maybe slow roasting. But we get the first strap on. It's strapped down, and probably, yeah, okay, definitely we should put the second strap on since it's hanging off. And now the second strap has a different issue, and I'm not even kidding. It's a different button that I had to push, but I did figure it out. Okay. And as we're contemplating, I hear this old Canadian accent. You know, what do we got going on here? Was that Canadian? And I look up and it's my old friend Scott Pitts. And me and Sydney are out there, and Scott Pitts is a handyman by trade. He just is. I mean, it is. Yes, that's what he does. And he gives us verbal support. Like he really didn't even have to help us out. By then, I was really getting it to where the ratchet was going to work. And he gives us verbal support that the bottom strap, once we got it on and the top together, that it was definitely going to hold. You know, he was actually really impressed by my Christmas red ribbon with the thumbtack and thought it was a great idea. Ingenious, I thought. And so off we go, really carefully, and trying to decide what the best route back would be. And so we take a right out of Lowe's instead of left onto the main road, go across a couple of old back roads, and then onto the highway rather than, well, what do you call it? Like a state road rather than the highway. And we definitely hit a few bumps early on. And as we did, that board, the 6 feet, because there's 6 feet hanging off the back, uh, is really bouncing, And Sydney and I are both wondering if the thing is just going to snap. So, yeah, that was a real thing. I quickly gauged the best speed, though, and put the four-way flashers on and ride on the 8 minutes back to the house. I can't remember what we were listening to, if it was the Grateful Dead CD or if it was like Dirty Dancing or something like that. But either way, the car behind us was staying well back. I mean, 100 yards back, as they should, or not. I mean, it was going to hold, right? It was going to hold, obviously. We get it home. I trim it down. It was 14 feet, and I needed 13.3, something like that. But use my jigsaw because it's the only saw that I have. And so I jigsaw it down, start drilling in the screws and my bit strips because it's old and it's been in the shop for a long time. And the screws are not new either. And so all those things combined, the bit strips, and I've got two screws just kind of sticking about an inch up out of the board, which is not what you want. And I can't get them up or down at this point. So I sent Scott a text and show him that we had made it home and that I'd got the board in, and told him I was going to have to run back to Lowe's. I really wasn't fishing at this point, but he did reply that he had plenty of these bits and screws and that I could have them. And so he just said if I could drive over, and I did. I scooped him up, gave him a hearty thank you. We talked about a few things, and then I got back to work. I didn't want to lose the project momentum, I told him, and I think that's a real thing. So the board now gets torqued in beautifully with these new screws and this new bit. And then, y'all, I took the old board because the only problem with the old board was that it was curled up on one end. And so I just got the jigsawing and replaced a few other problem spots on the is it called the landing? I don't know. It's the little square part before you go down the steps on the deck. And so there's like a 4.5 foot board there that was rotten. So I torques it up and replace it with a 4 foot board that I had cut off of the old board where it was still good. There were two other spots which I don't know were like a foot or 18 inches, and I've got them both like just on the edge of the joist, and I feel good about it in the short term. I do. But I'm not, I don't know. Like over time, the only thing that's holding them is that half of the joist on both sides. And I guess that's true for all of the boards, really. But I don't know if somehow there's some weight distribution issues. So, but look, now, you know what? I did all these other problem spots. I was really proud of myself, y'all. I'm not even kidding. Obviously, I'm spending the first 15 minutes of episode 96 talking about it. And but it really felt good to get this stuff done. And then, but now I'm in business. Now I know how to do it. Except for I still got to figure out how to get the boards home next time. Like, should I just go with delivery? I mean, I found out Lowe's delivers, And if I'm going to have them deliver it, then I probably just need to wait until I'm ready to do several boards at once because I don't want to pay the delivery fee. I could strap it on, you know what I mean? Like at an angle with the bottom end down against the tailgate and then use the ratchet strap on the bottom and then strap it in at the top, but then have it leaned up against like over the roof of the truck. I don't have a back window that opens, or I just put it right through there. But I don't know. Then we've got this angled board flying up off the top, which would look cool with my red ribbon. But I don't know how better that would be. Or just maybe I should just bounce on home like we did this last time. I don't know. Either way, if you come over, you can definitely step confidently on my newly replaced deck boards. So there you go. Yeah, the origin story of DT Madness a couple of years ago. I mean, it started in March or right around in there, March or April, of course. So March Madness was going on, and I took that part of that name from that occurrence, of course. But it's just the origin story is my own trials and struggles with the life, and mental health and things like that. And that's kind of where we've gone through that over the course of these past almost 100 weeks, and I've talked about my therapy with Living Lotus and just the different ins and out. I don't even know what all I've talked about. It'd be interesting to go back and listen to, which I should sometime. But my old friend, anxiety has made a guest appearance here in these last weeks, couple of weeks or two. For me, typically it starts with health type issues, with fear over those, not mine necessarily, although that also is included. But like, if there's something going on with my kids, then I have this real talent, this unfortunate talent to piece together like causes and effects and chains of events, and I can trace them out, obviously, to the worst possible scenarios. And I think my system is preparing me to deal with whatever. Um, at least that's what I gather. I don't know, but then of course that fires and triggers my autonomic nervous system, my sympathetic nervous system, and now my fight or flight or whatever the other ones are, phone, and there's another one. I forget. Um, but I'm a flight guy. I realize that I'm a flight guy. Um, and 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 that's been going on. And so, one of the things that I read about in Ken Wilber's book, I think I told you I read Ken Wilber's newest book, and one of the methods that he talks about is 3-2-1, where we have all these things, fears and worries and desires and whatever that are that are objects for us, and that we separate them out because we perceive them as dangers to us. And that the 3-2-1 kind of idea is to talk or recognize, witness these things as other, but then to slowly move towards, from three to two, which is second person. And he even suggests having conversations uh, with these ideas. So for me, like this idea of anxiety over health issues and stuff like this, and talking to it as a you. And even he suggests having two chairs set up and getting up and moving and taking on the persona, as it were, of whatever the object is, and then slowly moving it into the one where you realize that this is all a part of me. And so I tried that out at the river, and I went down and kind of had a conversation with myself and had a conversation with that part of me that that is the flight response. That is uh, the high strung, got to get out of here. How do I avoid this? But I've already worked out all the scenarios, and I spent some time there, and I at one point, like the thoughts that came to my mind, I'm definitely doing this verbally, and so I don't know if um, I don't know. On the one hand, I say I don't know if you do this when people are watching, but why not? Who cares, man? Who cares what people think? So much of my issue in the first place is worrying about what people think. But anyway, but the response to part of me from the other part of me was, you know what? It's it's okay that you have these responses. It's okay that you have these worries and fears that triggers your nervous system, whatever they're rooted in. But when it's about your kids, it's okay. This part of you is okay because if if because of a lot of things, but because raising kids is hard, man. And that was what the one part of me said to the other part of me, and it it caught the other part of me off guard. Like, yeah, yeah, raising kids is hard, and I don't even know what it's like being a kid in this time. Like, man, constant, constant pressure, and man, like so much information. It's information overload, and you have to say this, and you can't say this, and you've got to be this, and you better not be that, and you better do this, and if you don't, then your life won't follow the correct path. And the news is constant death and destruction and hatred and misinformation. It's like, and so raising kids in this age, raising kids at any point, but raising kids now, it's really hard, man. It's really tough. And so it's okay. It's okay that these feelings of fight or flight or whatever the other two F's are, like that's okay. And so, there's this other part where I go walking around in my neighborhood. There's this area that reminds me of some of the difficult days, some of the traumatic days for me. And I realize as 46, like I'm 46 almost and a half. And like when I will walk by that place, I noticed the other day, really for the first time, how my whole body language changes. Like my shoulders slump and I move back into this, you know, body language of shame and doubt. I don't know. And and I realize, and I can't say what I really said to myself, because I have this episode and all episodes marked clean. Um, but I was just like, no, man, hold your head up and hold your freaking head up. Hold it up high. And that type of body language, this casting off of self-doubt, not to the point of, machismo, not to the point of I'm better than you, not to, I hope you don't hear me say that, but like that I am in all of those parts of me. And so I hope that you can take something from that. I know many of you have struggles with these types of things as well, and probably a little different than mine. But I hope you hold your head up. I hope that when you sense yourself, I hope that when I sense myself doubting and being disappointed, in my own reactions, that I can remember that stuff's hard, man. This stuff can be really difficult, and so hold your head up. Anyway, um, I'm a reading machine right now, and of course I'm a big Oprah guy, and um, what's oh man, Rublowski, it's the new. Edgar Saltell is the first one, and then Familiaris. Familiaris is the new Oprah pick by Robluski, I think. And his first one is the story of Edgar Saltell, which was an Oprah pick back in 2008, New York Times bestseller. And Familiaris is the prequel. But I wanted to read the one that came out first. So I got it. And it's just majesty, man. It's just so good. Like I made the comment, and I'm like this. I'm like this, and if you've listened to me or you know me at all, you know that I'm a superlative kind of guy. Like those cookies that I just ate are the best ones I've ever had, and then until the next ones, and I'm okay with that. I like that this is the best day of my life. I hope that tomorrow is the best day of my life, and that it replaces, just like Emerson says. But like, so I made the comment that this guy Robluski is one of the best writers that I've ever read. Like just the language, the imagery that he evokes, the philosophical and like just nuggets of wisdom to chew on, but also the emotional journey. And this thing's about dogs. I'm not going to tell you anything that you wouldn't know just by looking at the jacket cover. Um, I didn't know because I just jumped right into it, and so I don't want to. I guess skip a minute ahead or something if you really want to read it and you want to have no preconceptions going in. Um, but I'd made the comment to Sarah that if this thing finishes, if it delivers at the end, then I'm gonna put it in my top five of all time. And because it was like 560 pages, and the first 500 pages, I was just like, this is unbelievable. And it it is based, again, if you want to skip ahead 50 seconds or a minute or two, then that's fine. But it isn't everybody wins happy feel good story. It isn't, not at the end. Um, it's a tragedy. And what I didn't realize at the time is that it is a retelling of Hamlet, which again, any short look into this book and you would know that. I didn't going in. Um, And so then I went to look at like the reviews on Goodreads, and so many people were saying kind of where I was at was like, man, the first 500 pages were amazing, but dang, the second, why would it end like that? And I would have thrown this book across the room, and it just made me think like, this thing is a retelling of Hamlet. What is it about? What is it about the genre of tragedy that makes us run away? That makes us not be glad about it. I mean, besides the obvious, because there's some reason why Hamlet is considered one of the greatest works of all time. And I've listened to it and I've read it a couple of times, but I'm going to go back and do it again just so that I can be a little bit more familiar with it. But so I've been wrestling with it. I've been wrestling with it, like, where do I put this thing now? And I still really do put it up on the end. It, by me saying that it fits into this tragedy category doesn't give you any hints about what is going to happen, and I think there are still plenty of surprises for you. Um, and I don't think you should quit after page 500. I don't. But anyway, and Familiaris, I'm about 250 in. This thing's like 900 pages, but it's just, man, it's just so good. It's just such good, rich writing that I'm really excited about. I don't know. Maybe I need a confession music here. I I'm a Wordle guy, and I do the Wordle and I do the mini crossword, and that's what I do. And I do that at the beginning of the morning, and usually it's the first thing in the nook during school. But lately, I've been lying in bed, and I've been waking up at 5 or something like that, 5:15, and I'm kind of awake then, but I'm trying not to make too much noise at the time, and so I'm making excuses here. I am. I'm making excuses. But what I'm saying is, I'm turning on Wordle right away at 5 in the morning, and my streak was at 110, somewhere around in there. My max streak is 220. Hunch ended my max streak. And I've been trying to get back to it, and I was halfway, and I had the word, And what I had was EA, okay, as the what, fourth and fifth letters. No, wait, are there five? So third and fourth letters. Yeah, okay. And I knew that K was in there, and I knew that K wasn't the last letter. Okay, that's where I'm at. And I put K at the beginning, and I put K as the second letter because I have EA in green. They're set, they've got to be there. And I couldn't figure out what went with K. And so I went, and I just was going to get the hint. I was just going to get the hint, and it said this is dealing with baking. And I just couldn't figure it out. And I had tried every scenario. I tried every scenario. And so I cheated. I cheated. I cheated on Wordle. And I found out that the word was need, Knead. And I put it in and I got it right. And I continued my streak because it came down to like my integrity versus the streak. And I went with the streak. But it didn't last long. I confessed that morning. I came out and I told Isaac and Sydney that what I had done. And they were disappointed in me. The next day I broke the streak on purpose with the word broke. I knew what the word was. The word was order. But I went ahead and wrote broke all the way down and ended my streak. And now my streak is reset and I'm back to three. I'm back to three. And to get to 220, I'm going to have to get to Sydney's 18th birthday in February. But I won't cheat again on Wordle. Probably. So there's that. Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. Let's skip over that part. You don't want to know about me and spider webs at the river. Nobody likes those. I got my tickets for St. Louis, and so I'm off on a week long fish tour. Be the only one this year, but there'll be a 5 show run, 2 in St. Louis, and then 3 at Deer Creek. Um, and I'm really excited about that. Seeing the arch, and I don't know what else is going on in St. Louis around there. My old friend Toph lives there, so I'll definitely be hitting him up. Um, and then in Indianapolis, I was hoping to go see Caitlin Clark play on the kind of off day, but they're taking a big break for the Olympics, which that's cool. I'll be watching the Olympics too. But I'm looking forward to that solo trip. I'm looking forward to the all the driving time. I'm gonna have to pick up maybe I'll listen to Hamlet on the way. David and I, we love audiobooks as we drive, and but I'm hoping to really do a lot of writing. Then I've actually developed the framework and thought that I should just use the sponsors of the podcast here as main categories. So I'm looking forward to fleshing that out over the next month or two and really hammering it out as we get back. But as we close up here, episode 96, I gotta mention the debate. I'm an AP government guy. I'm a mayor. Like I've been involved in government and interested in government since at least 1995 when I got to go to presidential classroom. And wow, we've got Donald Trump and Joe Biden, and like the disaster of Joe Biden is wow, it's really shaking things up. And I, I've said from a long time ago, you can ask some of my students that I did not think Joe Biden would be on the ticket all the way uh, to the convention. Like I didn't think he would come out of the convention on the ticket. I had made the same claims about Donald Trump, but I'm going to be wrong about that because it doesn't matter what happens with Donald Trump. His base is super strong, and so he's not going anywhere. He will be the nominee, but I don't think Joe Biden will be, and I don't know that he will be past. Maybe by the time we air episode 97, we may be talking about what's going to happen. And so I'll just briefly tell you in case you care, because I can't help it because I'm an AP government teacher. But what would have to happen is Joe Biden would have to say he's not going to accept the nomination, and then he would have to release his delegates because he's already got them wrapped up. And he would have to release his delegates at the convention, which is in Chicago in August, I think. And then what would happen is those delegates would be free to pick anybody they wanted to, and somebody would have to get. It's just south of 2,000. I think it's 1960, somewhere around in there, 1,960 delegates, which are party leaders and party operatives from all across the country. And 1960 is half or so, one more than half maybe. And so then there would be this jockeying between, certainly would be, Kamala Harris would be in the mix. Gavin Newsom, most likely, maybe. I don't know who would throw their hat into the ring. Maybe Whitmer from, I think Roy Cooper, his name is potentially going to be out there, at least as a vice presidential pick if this stuff happens. Um, which candidate can we pick that will draw the wings of the party together, um, and still be able to uh, compete, against Donald Trump? That'll be the question. I don't mean to say we. I'm unaffiliated. I really am. Like, I really am unaffiliated. I've voted for Republicans and Democrats all my life. I'm not a party guy. I'm not a party guy. And so, but that's how the mechanism would work, and that's how it always used to work. It always used to be decided at the convention. That's where things like, backroom deals in the smoke-filled room and those kinds of things. That's where those phrases come from. And the term dark horse, like James K. Polk, that's where those phrases come from, because it used to always be at the convention, and there could be multiple ballots. Likely nobody would get a majority vote on the first ballot, and then they would be wheeling and dealing, right? Like, okay, well, if you will tell your people to side with me as president, I'll make you Secretary of State. It'll be stuff like that that's going on. Um, so we could be in for quite the ride. But it's democracy, and it's a beautiful system, and I wish everybody could try to blow the thing up, including our top leaders. Like, what happened to this compromise and making the sausages and all this kind of stuff? Anyway, there's a scene in Familiaris where, there's a kid, and he's reading. The teacher has to take another student to the office in their fourth grade, and this is 19 whatever, 1928 or something like that. 19 whatever, in Wisconsin. And so the teacher takes the student to the office and says, okay, hey, you read the rest of Sleepy Hollow. And so the kid gets up and reads, and begins to read in a dramatic voice. And he's supposed to stay at his seat, but he stands up and reads in a dramatic voice, and all the kids are giggling and they're egging him on, and but then they lose focus, and so he walks up and sits at the teacher's desk, and then, he does that, and but the shock wears off, and then he takes the globe out and tosses it to his friend as though it were the head of the headless horseman, and then he puts the globe frame, the globe frame around his head. And because he has to keep doing these things, because the class and the students in the class were getting bored, and they weren't giggling anymore, and they kind of urged him to do more and more, because it says they didn't have to worry about anything. They were just watching. And that's where we've gotten to. Maybe we've always been here. Maybe it's just more prevalent now because of social media and the impact of widespread communication and the instantaneousness of it. But there's definitely some ludicrosity to it, eh? Um, but we just egg on these people to say the most outlandish thing, because that's what gets the most hits and clicks and re-X's and all this kind of stuff. Because there's not really much in it for us. We're just watching. We just get to hide behind the Facebook. Except for that, this is real stuff. Yeah, this is real stuff. Anyway, I'm super sore from my yoga club. I've been trying to do some new hand balances, and we'll see, man. I don't know. Like, I might become a real yogi and be doing some handstands and stuff like that. I got the podcast is on YouTube now. Google Podcast is ending, and so if you're listening on Google, I think today is the last day. But it asked me if I wanted to transfer it over to YouTube, and after a day or two, I was able to figure that out. So now the podcast is on YouTube. I've got this opportunity. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not looking to monetize here, probably, but like, I could do ads through Podbean. I'm not going to, trust me. But man, like, again, like, I've had close to 4,000 listeners now, or downloads, over 2 years. And in the past week, it's been 200. In the past month, it's been over 500. So 10% of the listeners, I don't know. Y'all like to listen to my jigsaw stories, maybe. I'm disseminating the stickers all around, and so I guess the madness is just catching on like wildfire. But this is a Church of Six production, brought to you by the Bucket of Life, the rope of relationship, the foundation tower of stone, the wall of belief, the token of hope, and the magic rock times one received and one given. Nothing divine is desperate. And I need to say that again to myself, DT Madness. Nothing divine is desperate. In order to be, try to never seem. May all your circumstances serve to awaken compassion, and as you go, teach peace. Don't forget to believe, y'all, and be live. Grace and peace, my friends.